Hello there and welcome to Il Salotto Sessions. I am Seravalli, an Italian event organizer with a profound enthusiasm for design and architecture, bringing over 15 years of experience from my work across showrooms in Milan, Paris and London. Fueled by a passion for connecting people in the design world, I founded Design Pop-Up in 2014, a specification-focused event that has since traveled throughout the UK and Ireland. Today I'm expanding my vision with Il Salotto, a vibrant space, both physical and virtual, dedicated to inspiring meaningful conversations and fostering connections within the design community. I hope you will enjoy my chats. Hello and welcome to another session of Il Salotto Sessions. Well, I've got Peter here with me again. I think I'm going to give you a column in this podcast. You always have too many interesting things to say. By the way, we just finished. We were supposed to start this 20 minutes ago, but we start chatting away about all sorts. So there's another 3 episodes coming up in the near future. So Peter, well, first of all, as you can see, we are in Il Salotto, which is very nice. Peter was here at Design Pop-Up and delivered a very interesting presentation about AI. So I said, okay, let's make a podcast so we can reach a bigger audience, right? First of all, we have a funny video to show you.
Hello, humans, and any robots in disguise. Buckle up, because you're about to hear from Peter Kerr, a guy so into AI, we're not entirely sure he's not a robot himself. Peter is a visionary in the field of AI and a trailblazer in exploring the transformative power of machine learning technologies. With an impressive career spanning decades, Peter has been at the forefront of groundbreaking innovations that are reshaping industries and redefining the boundaries of what technology can achieve. Today, he will take us on an enlightening journey, shedding light on the latest advancements, real-world applications, and the exciting future of AI. Prepare to be inspired, challenged, and equipped with insights from one of the most forward-thinking minds in this dynamic field. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Peter Kerr.
Big round of applause for Peter. Yay! Right, Peter, let's start from the basics. What is AI and how does it work? You were talking about the GPTs, no, not chat, GPTs.
Yeah. So, I mean, the way that AI works is, I mean, you've got, so ChatGPT, Gemini and Claude, they're 3, what we call conversational models. They're kind of interfaces to ask questions, right? And then they do something with that question and then give you a response. So they're conversational models, right? Conversational models can be added in to do other things, and link and create automation. And I think for me, AI, rather than it being too scary, I know the AI apocalypse seemed a bit scary, but you've got to get a head in that's going to grab people to come in. But it's about increasing your own personal productivity to free your mind from mundane tasks, to become more creative. And that's how I try and work using it. So you can automate things like accountancy, you can do, you can look at big data, you can analyze it for you and take all the things out. You can get research papers, kind of extracting the kind of core details from quite copiously sized research papers using these models. And that's the kind of important things for me. So it's something that helps. Let's not kid ourselves. AI has got bias. And I think I mentioned that in the presentation. Mm-hmm. It's probably the most biased thing that you could envisage, because what it does is it takes the views of the people who are interfacing with it. Mm-hmm. And that's the majority. And it doesn't take into account the minority thinking. And I think, again, for me, when you're using AI, you can't just blindly take its answers. You always need to look at the data and the source data that it's extracting that information from. And then you're having to almost use your own personal bias to say, is that biased or not biased? Because everyone's got their own biases. But I think that's one of the biggest fears I have, is that if AI, kind of dominates decision making, it could be very, very biased. And that's a big concern.
But it learns from, while you're working with it, it learns from what you need from it, right? Yeah, so, for example, for me, it's been incredibly helpful because it cuts off the amount of time I spend in writing podcast episode summaries or LinkedIn posts and stuff like that. However, is driving my head insane because it keeps it thought-provoking, delve into the conversation, blah, blah, blah. Is these 3 words that are always there. I say, can you not just stop saying thought-provoking conversations? Everybody's got thought-provoking conversations.
That's what it is.
So I can just tell, I just can tell the machine and say, don't use that.
Don't use those words.
Right.
I mean, right, we can talk about a practical side of things, right? So I'm trying to, I do a lot of other AI elements, but I'm trying to keep the chat GPT kind of thing, because everybody, thinks of AI, that's what it is, but it isn't. That's just an interface point. But within that, you can create what you call your own GPTs, right? So, and that you can almost create characters, right? And I like basing my characters on real people. So for an example, in our world, in a design world, I've got a fire engineer one, right, which knows, I think it's about 5 guides or something. They need a couple of BSs and some of the standards from Scotland and England. And you give it knowledge. So that's the first thing you do, is you build its knowledge. So you give it knowledge. So it isn't going searching the internet and, and then the bias comes in, because that's the mass access of information. So it goes in, it looks at those documents, it reads them super fast, as you can imagine. It then extracts the information that you want from it. But you can also give your let's GPT's character. So you can actually say answer it in this way, or you can say that their personality, like my colleague David Cameron. He's going to hate this, by the way. So I've got him. He's David Cambot, as I've called him, and the GPT. And I've given him David's background because he's a really creative engineer. And he's into punk music. He writes books, and he's just absolutely amazing, right? He does all these things. But I put this into his GPT, right? Then I've said that he loves the bottle collection, right? So because that's his kind of main project. He talks about it all the time, because it's a web engineer job. But I put this in as well, and the GPT says, like, always kind of make a reference about any project and reference it back to the bottle collection, right? So when you ask David Cambot, right, can you tell me about what the litres per second is for offices? So he'll come back to you, and actually comes back with a little bit of character, because you've given it character. And it was scary the other day, but I'll tell you about that in a second, right? But so he comes back, but he always references it back to the bottle collection. So he goes, yeah, that's the litres per second in the office. But did you know the bottle collection's environmental systems are the best? Blah, blah, blah. So you can create character. You can have a wee bit of fun with that. You can then start having kind of funny conversations with it as well. It's weird. Don't trust me, I'm not sitting all night discussing and debating with that AI. But it starts to build that character, and then the inflections that you would expect the bot to use, and then it becomes quite scary when it starts talking back. Like I asked it the other day. I says, "Can you tell me about David Cameron, with whom you are based upon?" And it came back with a whole load of cheek. He's saying, "Look, you're wasting my time. Why am I talking about David Cameron?" So, and he says he's a great guy. He loves punk music. Right, he's in a band, and he's a superb engineer. If you've got actually a real question you want to ask me, don't waste my time. And I'm like, that's what David would say, But so you can create these things, but the main focus is provide it with source knowledge. And generally, ChatGPT limits you up to 20 PDFs of knowledge. So you add in that knowledge, and it looks at that first. But it's great for searching data. That's the big benefit. So if you're looking at building regs, put the building regs into it, right? If you're looking at building regs, you're going, right, where is this about maglocks? Where is this about fire compartmentation? It will give you can ask it the question saying, well, I've got this space. And then it can write you reviews. Sorry, fire engineers out there, right? But it can then draft you views, which I was sending to our fire engineers at my previous company. It's like, look at this, it's written a view here. What if the architect's got a hold of this? You're going to be out of a job. But so these are the things it can help you with, and it can help you with, as I say, research and stuff like that. It can also analyse and check things, right? So if you've got a stage 3 document, it can do fact checks and check standards. It can check grammar, it can, and then you can actually say
that's handy for me.
Grammar, but you can imagine an engineer writing stuff and it's gibberish to 90% of the population.
Yeah.
What you can do is you can say, take this gibberish, right? Create a gibberish GPT. Right, and make it something that people can understand. So you can do things like that as well. So that's how you use it. You're not replacing your thinking power and your brain power if you use it
correctly.
that way. Yes, exactly. And that is one of the issues. I mean, with obviously the movie comparisons that I was making in the AI apocalypse one, that's the idiocracy film, where AI takes over thinking for people and everybody becomes stupid.
We go there in a minute.
All right,
so
okay.
2 seconds. Two things. One, David Cameron, if you're listening, we are having an event about the barrel collection here in Salotto in June with the GIA. So you need to make sure you come into that one.
You want him on the panel then? He knows.
Well, GIA is organizing it. I'm just giving the space. So yes, I love to talk about the barrel collection coming in here. The other thing is, so is there actually danger for some jobs?
Yeah, I mean, the way that I foresee it working, and when you look at some of the papers, you obviously media likes bad news.
Yeah.
And media and bad news sells for some reason, right?
Yeah. Yeah, all have been miserable, haven't we?
They always love being miserable. But the reality is that will it mean job losses in the short term? No. Will it mean a reduction in job availability in the future? So perhaps if you have an accountant, you might have a team of 3 at the moment. In the future, what would probably happen is that number would reduce because some of the tasks for accountants might be automated. So those are the kinds of jobs that's going to happen. I mean, obviously manufacturing is the first big hit, when you look at those countries in Eastern Europe, could be hit quite significantly, and probably will be more job losses in those areas.
Yep.
Whereas in the UK, we're very much a service-based economy. So what you'll see is a gradual kind of, if you like, reduction in job availability. But the thing that what I always say though is make yourself indispensable by being that more creative and innovative person, and the only way to do that is to gain as much knowledge as possible.
But also we can create other jobs, don't we?
Other jobs can be created. Yeah.
Especially nowadays, you can make a job out of anything, like walking the dog or whichever.
People are asking me, am I selling AI services? I've been getting asked that recently.
You can be an AI trainer.
Yeah, AI trainer. Yeah, but not yet. Not yet. I like to make sure that
more important things to do.
Yeah.
Right. So, which actually is talking about our industry? Which jobs do you think is more useful to architects, quantity surveyors, engineers? You've talked about they can do the research for you and then you just and check facts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Can architects use it somehow, anyhow?
Yeah, I mean, the building regulation checks.
Oh yes, of course.
I think you can build your GPTs to go and answer some simple questions or where to find information. I mean, I don't generally use the internet as a search function anymore. I would use, Chat GPT, Gemini, or Claude. You go in, you do your search, and actually you get much better data, and you get multiple sources, and then you can actually have a chat with the GPT, so it opens up a panel.
Do you talk to it, or do you type it?
You do. You start to, because there's sometimes the way it's humanising its answers. Sometimes you swear at it and it gets a bit offended. So you can actually take out you can have a little bit of a debate. So you can ask it saying, "Look, I don't think you're quite right.
Yeah.
Are you sure about this? Where have you got this data?" Anyway, there's a technical one that I was looking at. It was about diversity. Electrical engineers will know about it, right? It's about diversity on welding, and I'm like, and he came back and said, "You should just use this number because that's generally accepted in the industry." And I'm going, "That sounds a bit iffy."
Yeah.
Where have you got this information from? Well, this is just when it just looks as if I think you're lying. I need you to tell me the truth. He said, "Well, yes, you're right. There isn't really a source of data for this that I've managed to find." And then I was like, it will try and give you an answer. I'll always try and give you an answer. So you always need to be careful, and you need to focus on where it's getting the data, and that's so. If you've given it the knowledge, it will get it from its knowledge. If you haven't given it from knowledge, it will then go out in the internet, and then it will look at stuff and go, "Well, there's a little bit of somebody has said something. I'll go and grab that, maybe, and then it'll give you the number." And anyway, I managed to find data on it, and it was actually had said 0.7, but the data I found was like 0.4. Anyway, so it was quite a significant difference between reality and AI facts.
So what were you saying about the stupidity side of things?
Yeah, well, I think, again, if you go back to education, and so plagiarism has existed for a long, long time. However, back in the day, right, you were still forced to read what you were plagiarising.
To do some research.
Yeah, so you were still opening a book, you were reading the stuff and going.
If nothing else, you had to. When I was in school, you had to physically write it. Read the book and write next to it.
Yeah. So,
Forget about copy and paste from a Word document.
100%. So you're reading stuff, right? And you're taking the information and you're digesting it and you're going, I'm a bit lazy, I can't be bothered rewording that. I'll just take it and I'll put it in my document, right?
Yep.
So that was always done, but you were digesting information, you were reading it, and you were replicating it. So at least you'd read it. The fear with AI is that you can create entire documents
and know nothing
about it, right? And it's an extreme fear for me. And we did have that little debate at the end because obviously my presentation was running on, so as these things do for me. So we're having that chat, and I'm going that there is a real fear for me that, whilst people are getting through university to get a degree, they come into the workplace and that's when you get found out. So you're only ever cheating yourself if you are using AI in its entirety and not understanding what it's giving you, and you've not looked at it, and you've not did the research, you've not. So I think looking at all the source data is always important. Where it's manufactured, if you like, it's text from. Always look at that and read it and understand it. And if you don't do that, you're only cheating yourself, and you will get caught out in the world of work.
Yeah. I was just thinking again back when I was in school. You're doing your homework and you need to find out what's the capital of Italy. Now you say, "Hey Alexa, what's the capital of Italy?" It's Rome.
Yeah.
But then you forget it after 2 seconds because it's giving you the information in 2 seconds. While when we were in school, that you had to open the book and go your atlas and find the maps. Oh, that's Rome there. So there was a bit of a higher chance that information would stick to your mind.
Yeah. It's really true. You're 100% right. I call it the instant information society. So I think we debated that, didn't we? In the AI as well. So the aspect of how people are digesting knowledge and accessing knowledge now is totally different. So when I started in 1994, I went to the library in the office, picked them up, and as you say, you're reading and you're actually taking notes. Going, that's pretty good. Because you're going to go, I have to get back to this later. I create my little binder of knowledge. Snippets that you get, and put the book back. And then I'm going, I really should remember this. I have to try and memorise it now because I might not be able to get that easily. So your brain was trained to recall of data. And the fear I've got with now, the next generation, and sound like an old man now.
We do something.
Right, I know we do, don't we? But the worry is it's not their fault. But what they've got is the internet, and the internet is the library of today. It's a really rubbish library of spurious data.
Inexact.
Sometimes. Or Wikipedia. Somebody gives me a source from Wikipedia, I will throw them out, right? But the thing is that so what happens with our brains is that they don't feel the need to recall.
Yeah.
They don't need that recall because
it's immediately available. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and it's a real problem because when you think about creative side of things, especially being a creative engineer, you need to tie lots of things together, right? And to do that, you need to retain knowledge. If you're only accessing data like that, you won't be able to get to a more creative and innovative solution. My concern again is that from an engineering perspective anyway, is the creativity and innovation going to drop off because the way that we are thinking and are memorising information is totally different. And that leads to that world of the idiocracy film. Being like people are just told, they ask a question and they're told what to do. And if you think about bias in corporations, and that's what happens, you'll end up with people watering their farms with Gatorade because it's got electrolytes, because that's what the ads tell them. And electrolytes are good, but it's killing everything because it's a corporation thing. This is what you should be doing. And it's just telling people, so people then become subservient to mass information, rather than thinking for themselves, because they're not retaining knowledge, and they're not reading, and they're not looking at it.
So what can we do about it? You said with the new people joining your new company, then you're gonna make sure they do training the old-fashioned way.
Old-fashioned learning first, books first. They create their own binders, very much old school, their own binders of knowledge, and then the rewards will come on the basis of not length of time, not who they are, but what they know. Our pay structure will be based upon, an incentive structure will be based on knowledge.
Study, you get more money. There you are.
That's it. So that's the way that we want to do it. We want to break a wee bit of the convention about
Productivity as in fast.
Productivity, because a lot of stressors in life, a lot of engineered stressors, people say, I have to work so many hours. And you're going, look, so see if you think about it, see if you put a wee bit of effort in your early part of your career and read and be knowledgeable, you don't have to work as long because you work quicker.
Yeah.
So you get through things quicker.
Yeah.
Which then means less stress. So you just have to put the work in. And then life becomes a lot easier because you know the stuff.
Yeah.
You can go to meetings, you can be confident, and you can enjoy it. I mean, and that's the kind of big thing for me is that we want anybody that works with us, we want them to love and enjoy engineering. So it's not going to be for everyone. Some people just want a job, but that's not the type of people we want. We want people with a passion for everything's an art form. Engineering's an art form.
Correct.
Right? Engineering's an
Everything is an art. Even plumbing is an art form.
Everything, yeah. And if that's only if the plumber or the engineer thinks it's an art form.
Well, it's passion, isn't it?
It is, it's passion. You think you're a plumber, you can have bad plumbers and good plumbers. The way that they even, they lay out the pipe work and everything else, they're being proud. So to create that, then they need to be skilled.
Yeah.
And to be skilled takes time and it takes effort. But once you've done that, known that skill, you can use that skill forevermore. And then that will increase your personal value.
And the more passionate you are, the more you want to find out more, you want to learn, you want to be creative, find solutions, and therefore, Yeah,
100%. So I mean, that's what's interesting for David and I, is it's looking at that. How do we tap into that person that wants to be that person? And what's the best journey for them? Is it looking at the internet? Is it reading data? Is it then having intellectual debate about challenges? Is it about sitting down every day and having access to good engineers who are willing to talk to you and being present and actually being there for you to help you? Again, engineers are great procrastinators. So that whole kind of, if your engineers work from home, and they're not sharing their challenges and their problems, they're just sitting there and they're procrastinating, spending hours and hours and hours going, should I do this? Should I do that? Should I do this? Should I do that? Whereas if you're in an environment that is about knowledge and problem solving, 5 minutes, answer, done, move on, no having to work late. That's the kind of key thing for me, is just being aware of your surroundings, being aware of the people you're working with and loving what you're doing.
Right, so if you want a job at Kerr, newly formed Kerr, you know what you have to do now. That's it. So we are a bit digressing, but for me, we're talking about passion, and for me, it's these conversations. I'm having such great fun since I started this project, and it's not just with the podcast. Even people that just come into the showroom and sit for a coffee and make me think, and it's refreshing. We kind of feed each other with information and knowledge, and then automatically create change.
Yeah, that's the thing. So that, again, there was a book I was referencing, it's a Hannah Critchlow book, and we're talking about in that book we're talking about COVID.
Yeah,
right. And because people are disconnected, there was a global reduction in global IQ levels.
Yes.
So when we connect people physically together, creating fantastic places like this for the design community to come and chat and debate, we're increasing our knowledge and we're increasing our global IQ.
Yeah.
So this is a centre of knowledge. Every place that allows people to come together and talk is a centre of knowledge.
There you go. I didn't think about knowledge. I was just thinking about our industry, which we are very passionate about, and there is a few things that need changing. That's I take it. It's not up for discussion.
That was the previous podcast that we were talking about.
That was the previous podcast we were talking about. But yeah, I think if a conversation like this, or with 10 people or with 20 people, are so important to get those changes happening. Peter, thank you very much. And I'm sure I'll have you back soon enough with something else.
Good stuff. Thank you.
Thank you very much for listening to Il Salotto Sessions. If you enjoyed the chat, please make sure you share with your friends and follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcast. For more information on our events, please visit ilsalotto.design and designpopup.com. You can also find us on Instagram _designpopup and Il Salotto Glasgow as well as LinkedIn. Should you have any feedback, questions or suggestions, please do get in touch at hello@ilsalotto.design. We would love to hear from you. Thank you.